Welcome once again to another edition of Quoth Raven, Lewis Bright Raven. I'm your host, Lewis Bright Raven, 30-year veteran writer, illustrator, editor, publisher, talent scout of comics, science fiction, fantasy, horror, and role-playing games. And this is one of our questions of the day. It's been a while uh, for those, and I'll get to why in a moment, because someone actually asked me that question this week. How come you haven't been doing daily questions the past couple of weeks? And the basic answer is because no one's been emailing me any questions, so I can't answer questions when I'm not asked them. So I don't just make stuff up like a lot of people do. So there you go on that one. But the real question this week, or today rather, um, has to do with the recent departure of Joe Quesada. He recently resigned his position at Marvel and has gone on to pursue other creative projects after 20 years as editor in chief and chief creative officer of the company. And the question is, now that Joe Quesada has resigned and left Marvel to pursue other interests, what does that mean for creators like yourself who didn't want to work at Marvel because of him? Does this mean the door is open now? Would you go to work for them? And if you were to work at Marvel again, now that Quesada's left, what title or titles would you want to work on and why? So, first question first. Let's go ahead and go back to the first question real quick. What does it mean for creators? Well, whether it's for myself, let's just talk about creators in general. I don't think it has to do with anything with whether you've currently worked at Marvel or not, or you've chosen not to work for Marvel because of editorial things. And people need to understand, people who choose not to work for Marvel aren't just choosing not to work for Marvel because of Joe. Joe was certainly a factor into it, but there were other people involved in the decision. So the fact that Joe has left, things really haven't changed all that much, but they may change in the next few months to the next year, as a departure of that stature and that nature usually means other people that worked under their um, oversight will probably either move up the chain of command into the new positions, or they will be departing the company as well. And that remains to be seen what that's going to be like. And I think that for most of us who aren't currently working for Marvel but have in the past, or want to work for Marvel but haven't been able to get in, I think that most of us are going to have to wait it out a little bit and see where exactly it's going to go before we can really answer that question fundamentally. Because if it's the same people like Cebulski and Brevoort and others, and you don't get along with them for some reason, it's not going to make any difference if they're still in place at the top of the food chain. They're not going to hire you. You're not going to work for them. Nothing's changed. But Brevoort's been in the company almost 30 years now himself. And I could see Disney saying, hey, you've had your 30 years. Here's a nice severance package. Have a nice day. I could see that happening very easily. And if Tom leaves, then maybe Cebulski leaves, maybe some other people leave. And depending on who comes in to replace them, that may open the door for other creators to come in. Now, as for me personally, that's my kind of where I sit at it. I have to see what happens and see who's doing what. As for if there's a circumstance where I can talk to the right people or whatever, or is a situation where I would feel comfortable coming back to Marvel, what books would I want? Dang. Truth be told, the characters have deviated so far away from the things that I um, associated with and connected with as a reader when I was younger. Um, I probably want to start with What Ifs. If they bring back What If as a regular monthly series and not try to do it as an MCU What If, but just a general What If that goes through the whole span of the history of the characters, then I'd like to do something like that again. Because I did several stories for Marvel back in the 90s for What If that were never released. I'd like to see, first off, I'd like to see the ones that haven't been released and not just use as source material for other things. We're not going to get into that, but the ones that they bought that they never used, I'd like to return to them and update them, because my writing style is certainly different now from when it was back in the 90s, and do some other possible ideas with the what ifs, so I'm not locked in the current continuity. I'd have to really think about what could I offer as a writer for the current continuity, because, like I say, I haven't really been into the Marvel side of things for a while now, and it's very difficult. As I was saying to my friends over on the Super Teen Amateur Press Alliance page on Facebook, throughout the 90s, it was always a struggle. You either were on the same page with the editor and you'd pitch something they wanted, but they already had somebody else writing that, so they didn't need to hire you, or you'd pitch something that was, not where you thought the book was going to go, and then the editor would butt heads with you and say, no, I don't want this. So, you couldn't win. 6 of one, half a dozen of another. But that's kind of where I think I'm at with the writing for Marvel right now. DC's a little more open, but again, it's the same situation. Everybody left except Jim Lee, and it comes down to me having communications with the right editors and talking to them, and I haven't done that. So that's the sort of thing I think for everybody right now. As for other artists, I've spoken to other people about this situation since Joe left. And the consensus attitude for most of the veteran artists, especially those who are doing their own books through crowdfunding these days, they don't really necessarily want to come back to Marvel or DC. Partly because of the rumors of people lowering the pay. The companies are keep lowering and lowering the page rate, so it's not feasible to go work for them and make a living comfortably. And part of it is because if they've really had an extensive career at Marvel or DC or both, they've probably already worked on the characters that they want to work on. So it's like, yeah, I've already done that. I don't need to go back to that. I have other things now I'm interested in doing. So I don't think that the departure of Quesada is necessarily going to bring back veteran creators who didn't work for them for a while and want, I know a lot of fans want those people to come back, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen. I'm not saying it won't. Anything's possible for any of us, but I think that the overall structure is going to be that of right place, right time, right set of circumstances. So I think that's pretty much all we can hope for is, maybe people find the right communications and stuff. And I don't know that's going to happen because of generational gaps and other things going on, because a lot of the younger editors really don't seem to have the knowledge or the interest in established talent, no matter how popular it may be. They want to find other people that are people they like and are kind of like yes people to them and want to do what they want to do, rather than going out and seeking out the best possible talent, in my opinion. That's just my observation as an editor myself, seeing out who's getting hired where and why. And again, I'm 50. Some of these other people are in their 30s. There's a generational difference in perception. So we'll see what happens. The other possibility with Disney owning Marvel is that all of Marvel management will get replaced by Kevin Feige, and Disney will take over with Disney Press. And that could range to a whole different outlook for Marvel Comics. And I don't know if that's going to happen overnight either. I think that's something that will probably take about 12 to 24 months to develop, if it does. And if it does, then we'll have something to talk about, because I think it'll change the landscape of the direct market a little bit, or quite a lot. Because if Marvel does it, then Time Warner Disney will do this, or Time Warner DC will do the same thing probably, and that'll change the landscape But it's kind of a game of wait and see now. So that's my answer to your question. I hope you got what you wanted out of that, all you folks who asked me about that. And if you have a question for me for the future, Quoth the Raven LBR72 at gmail.com is the place to send it. Subject QTR Q&A. As for other programming, later tonight at 10:30 p.m., I will be doing What Did You Get This Week? Talking about the books I acquired at the comic shop and in the mail through crowdfunding. And Saturday this week, 8 p.m., June 11th, it'll be Anime Night Gotcha Man, Science Ninja Team Gotcha Man Part 3, as we review the whole 105 episodes of the original Japanese version of the series, which is not the same as Battle of the Planets. And we'll probably talk a little bit more about that on Saturday. Part 3 will be reviewing episodes 41 through 60, I believe. Something like that. But then we'll talk about some other things as well regarding Gotcha Man. So there you go. That's what we're doing this weekend. And I appreciate you all watching as always. My computer's being silly. Sorry about that. So if you enjoyed this video, or you think others might, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons to continue to get content from my channel. As always, I thank you for watching and for your support. We will see you guys later this evening for What Did You Get This Week? Until then, if you want to reach out to me on social media, Facebook, Lewis.BrightRaven, Twitter at LewisBrightRave2. You can see some of my artwork at deviantart.com/BrightRaven. You've been watching Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright exclusively on YouTube. Again, email me for questions, or if you have commission artwork or suggest a topic for discussion for the show. Quoth the Raven LBR72 at gmail.com is the primary address. If I'll get back to you in a day or so, try LewisBrightRaven at yahoo.com. That's all for now. We'll see you a little bit later this evening. Until then, have a great night.